Good morning. Good morning. We're going to give you like 1 minute if you need some ink pens or paper. And we're going to get started. We appreciate those that are on time, and we're going to start. So if you need to get any pencil and paper, since there's really no movement. Oh, I'll say for you to get pencil and paper. Okay, we'll give you 1 more minute for you to get your pencil and paper. Okay, do you need some Pocahontas? If there's some flowers, would you give them to your brother OB? Something he can write on. We do have some flowers. Anybody need any paper? Would you hold your hand up? 2 hands, 3. Adiella. And the is it warm? Okay, we're going to get started. Adiella, Kanisha, right here. And if you can just give them one of the flyers that we passed out, they can write on the back. Is everybody okay? Okay. Okay, we're going to get started. Again, I'm going to say good morning. Good morning. We can do better than that. Good morning. Yes, this is a life seminar. This is really a life seminar. Information that's going to be shared here is going to extend, promote life. So just one more time for life. Good morning. Good morning. That's what I'm talking about. My name is Aman Yisrael, Regional Director for Builders of the Highway Foundation. We are an outreach organization who are always looking forward for an opportunity to raise the bar in the lives of people in this country and abroad. We stand to benefit by making the decision to educate, enlighten ourselves physically, mentally, and spiritually. As partners with the city of Riviera Beach, the best city to live, work, and play, it is our pleasure to welcome you. You may ask, why do we say we're Riviera Beach, the best city to live, work, and play? For starters, we have Grand Rapids Water Park, the #1 attraction in Palm Beach County, with 12 full acres of water slides, wave pools, and casual eateries. At 13 feet above sea level, we have about 35,000 citizens in our city who live about 5 minutes away from the most pristine beach in South Florida, Riviera Beach. We also house the Palm Beach International Port. Their home is here in Riviera Beach. Riviera Beach Suncoast High School is in the top 10 in the nation. Inlet Grove, Maritime Academy are also A schools here in Riviera Beach. Riviera Beach is the home to the Blue Heron Bridge, one of the world's onshore diving areas in the world. So again, welcome to Riviera Beach, the best city to live, work. Our partners and sponsors for this occasion, C1 Enterprise, the Commission on Social Justice, Hippocrates Institute, and of course, the city of Riviera. The sponsors of this grand event are quite aware that there is an epidemic of illness and disease that demands our immediate attention as a society and a community. As a result, we have pooled our resources together to introduce and present to others the Hippocrates Health Institute, represented by our distinguished speaker, Dr. Brian Clemens. He is a world-renowned personality who is no stranger to the battle against illness and disease. His techniques are simple, controversial, effective, and innovative. Before we start our affair, do we have any of our city council members present? Well, we have our awesome Deputy City Manager, Danny Jones. Can you stand up and just wave your hand, sir? Now we'll turn this part of the program over to Hippocrates. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so very much, Aman. And we're so grateful to be here and be here with each one of you today. So Hippocrates is a really special place, but if we could give just Aman one more round of applause, I'd appreciate that. He's really put a lot of heart and soul into bringing Hippocrates Health Institute, which is actually, believe it or not, right down the street. So the funny thing is that people actually travel from all over the world to go to Hippocrates, and here we are in your backyard. So who's going to be coming to visit with us? Excellent, excellent. So we will be having an open house. So we have that the last Wednesday of every single month. That's when you can actually come and experience Hippocrates Health Institute, experience some of the live and living foods. Brian Clement, who is here today to share with you and help everybody get back on track, is actually a world traveler, international traveler, has written over 20 books, speaks internationally all over the world as often as possible when he's not here in your own backyard celebrating health and happiness at Hippocrates. So we'd like to invite each and every one of you. We also have lunches, so you can come for a tour if you'd like on Thursdays and Saturdays, and that's at 12 o'clock noon. And I myself, my first name is Caroline. It's a pleasure to be here with each and every one of you. We do have some special opportunities after our special event today. We will have a book signing. One of Brian's, actually his newest book is Sweet Disease. He's constantly in the midst of spending time every single week writing. And so you imagine, how does a person direct a health facility where many people come from all over the world and oversee that operation and lecture 150 days a year and still, believe it or not, continue to write books. And the books that are being written are some of the most leading edge information so that you can apply simple ways of application. In this case, Sweet Disease is understanding the kind of havoc that sugar plays internally on your system. Because if we don't really have the knowledge, then how do we apply it, right? So you ask yourself, how do I know? I myself, I'll share just a little bit of brief history about myself, and then we're going to have this fine gentleman who has really handled some larger scope of concerns. I myself started at Hippocrates Health Institute, and now I'm out on the road to share and celebrate with you some of the things that have changed in my life. So Essentially, when I started in 2008, I was 10 pounds away from being clinically obese, and I was pre-diabetic, and I wore eyeglasses. So all of those things have been handled and managed. And each one of you has what's called a lifestyle chart on your seat that also has a special for you to enjoy and appreciate on the top there if you're interested in going to Hippocrates. But what we learn at Hippocrates Health Institute is that 80% of all disease is, are you ready for this? A choice. Okay? In other words, in your mind and in your heart and in your internal knowing, okay, is a decision. So every single moment, we are going to decide for health or not. How simple is that? So today we're going to be learning some of the important role that living foods plays. We want to also help celebrate the fact that we have Got Sprouts, which is right here in town, right? And so after our event today, is that gorgeous or what? That is beautiful, right? And so Brian's also going to be talking about living foods. The lecture today, we're going to address half a century of work on disease and longevity conducted at the renowned Hippocrates Health Institute. Cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, MS, ALS, Parkinson's, all can be more than altered, prevented, and at times conquered with phytochemicals, antioxidants, and other nutrients consumed on a diet of organic, vegan, living foods. Does that sound like a tall order for you? It's doable, and we're going to teach you how to do it today. Brian Clement will explain the basic science and extraordinary mechanisms that bring about a heightened and balanced immunity. When we have a balanced immunity, the body intuitively knows how to conquer any challenges that we may have. I am a living proof, and so is this fine gentleman right up front, Daryl. Hundreds of thousands worldwide share enthusiasm and their greatly improved health by utilizing unprocessed, okay? Do any of you remember that? Living on unprocessed foods? Green foods. One of the exceptional benefits acquired from this powerful cuisine is longevity. So who here is interested in longevity, right? All right, very good. So I want to personally invite each and every one of you to come visit us at Hippocrates. And Daryl, come on up.
Where's it located? You said in the backyard?
Oh, it's in the backyard. It's on. It's right down the street. Actually, it would probably take you about 20 minutes to get there. It's in between Okeechobee and Belvedere on Skees Road. So it's on a road called Palmdale. But if you know where the overpass is on Okeechobee, you'll be going a little bit west. You'll turn left on Skees Road. It's 55 acres of plush, tropical, beautiful terrain. Now, the reason people come from all over the world, okay, why would Europeans come to Hippocrates Health Institute? Thank you. It is in Florida, and it is perfect weather, okay, but a European culture understands health spa experience, wouldn't you say? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Within 3 weeks, they're able to transform their whole illness to a much better level. So
Right.
word of mouth gets out, and if you have a partner or friend or somebody who's, has fourth stage cancer, where can they go and really get healthy? Well, at Hippocrates, people come with fourth stage cancer in 3 weeks. They're able to really turn it around. So yes, Europeans are very, very looking for the right answers, and that's why you're getting so many Europeans, because they're looking in the right place.
Right, right. Well, thank you so very much for that. Yeah. So Hippocrates has been literally on the leading edge and on the forefront of natural medicine. We also, in your books, invite doctors and physicians and those that have been traditionally trained to come to Hippocrates. And that is an experience that is second to none. It's a 3-day immersion where we're attempting to do our best to literally bridge the gap with someone who may have had very small amount of training and education within their entire educational system, but yet are out and addressing the public health. So anyone who has training in as a doctor or as a nurse or as even in natural forms of healing, if they're interested in more information and learning more about Hippocrates and how we can, as a people, bridge the gap between natural forms of healing and allopathic medicine. Okay, can you imagine what the world would be like if the physician actually was in the know? Or could you even imagine if we worked together as a team so that we help literally boost the immune system? When people come to Hippocrates, we could end the lecture now. I won't do that because Brian's way too fun. But essentially, if all we knew how to do was boost the immune system, then everything from there is history. So it makes a huge difference. So come on up, Daryl. Oh, sorry, Gerard. Sorry. Okay, good. So this, I'm so sorry about that. For some reason, I don't know why I keep thinking. Okay, good. Anyways, this fine gentleman we talked about some more challenging type of opportunities. Now, I told you that what I had was kind of challenging. So a lot of people think that it's hard to lose weight. A lot of people think that it's hard to handle diabetes. A lot of people think that come on up. A lot of people think that it's very hard to handle heart disease. All these things are physically manageable. Okay, but this gentleman right now, Gerard, is going to talk about something a little bit more challenging for you today. So,
can everybody hear me okay? I'm not a big microphone fan.
okay, you're not? Okay, okay.
If everybody can, I'll sit over here. Good morning. I'm a South Florida, Deerfield, Boca Raton guy, so it took me a little while to get here. Riviera Beach is a beautiful place. Okay, you can't hear me? Oh, hold on. Oh, what do you call it? Okay, brilliant. And I bought this company, God Sprouts. They were just in my house yesterday. I buy Sprouts. Real quick, my name is Gerard Jacobs. I'm less than 2 months away from being 59 years old. In 4 months, I would have been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Both of those are miracle statements. Men don't get to live with multiple sclerosis until they're 59 years old. The mortality rate is rather high. Men don't get to say I've had MS for 30 years, as I am. How have I done it? All by my diet. What Dr. Brian is about to talk to you about, though he said it's new, there's nothing new about it. It's all been here for centuries. It was all brought to us by Mother Nature. As we're at Hippocrates' lecture, as Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine, let medicine be thy food. Just that simple. It's all been there for the healing. Quick background on myself. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis before I turned 30. I was on your basic SAD diet, standard American diet, very poor. Eating junk, eating crap, soda, processed foods, chicken, beef, and fish. And of course, when I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, MS is degenerative. It just kept getting worse and worse. I was fortunate. The first 20 years of MS, no problem whatsoever. Life was rolling along just fine. Then literally 2 months before my 20-year anniversary of having MS, the stuff hit the fan, and I had to stop working. In less than a year, I found myself in a scooter. It didn't occur to me to change my diet. What occurred to me was, oh, I'm going to try good old medicine, see what they have to say. So I went to a neurologist. They said, try this drug. That didn't work. Tried another drug. That didn't work. Then it occurred to me, gee, using a drug in my already sick body, how's that going to help me? I'm already sick. I don't need any more toxins in my body. So at the end of 2007, the doctor said, you know, these drugs aren't working for you anymore. I recommend you don't use them anymore. So I stopped using it. I was with my lady here on my back for basically 2008, 2009, detoxing from all the crap that they gave me. And I say crap because I'm respectful to you people. It was a lot worse than that. I got all out of my body 2009. At the very end of 2009, I became a vegetarian. No more chicken, no more beef, no more fish. And to this day, 6 years later, 7 years later, no more chicken, beef, and fish. I went along, that was okay. I tried different things, no more drugs. Got myself into not 5, not 10, 17 different supplements a day. I used my supplements, vegetarian diet. Things weren't getting worse, but they weren't getting any better. Then I was turned on to and heard about Hippocrates Health Institute down the block here in West Palm Beach. And I found out, gee, maybe this vegan thing is something pretty good. So in 2012, I became a vegan. The changes were rather swift. It was very easy going from pastas and other stuff that I was eating instead of beef and fish to a vegan diet. That was very simple for me to do. Vegan, by the way, is vegetarian, no animal products, no milk, no eggs, and no dairy. So the shift over to that was pretty simple. So I wasn't getting worse, wasn't getting a little bit better here or there. I incorporated chiropractic, physical therapy, going to the YMCA, and of course I've always had a pretty good attitude. Then as I started spending time at Hippocrates, I realized that this vegan thing is pretty good. Gee, maybe it's time to being a raw vegan. Raw, again, by definition, is not eating hot food. And upon my own personal research and hearing Dr. Brian talk, most autoimmune diseases flourish in a heated environment. So given that I live here in Florida, I get warmed up anyway. Well, I give myself hot food to keep myself warmed up. So I stopped eating hot food. That change was rather swift. I'm here to tell you that I'm on YouTube. There's not one, not four. There's 7 videos of me walking on YouTube. All right? And you can see 2010, 11, 12, and 13, as I went from a vegetarian, vegan, raw vegan, my walking really, really picked up a lot. And the change was rather easy, rather swift. To transition myself into the right diet was very good. As we get ready for Brian's talk, the topic today is about avoiding disease. Well, if someone had told me about this, and more importantly, I guess, told my doctors about, hey, you know, stop eating bad processed food, maybe you get better quicker. Maybe to avoid getting sick. That's what if I had known that, things would have changed a lot quicker for me. But I wasn't given that opportunity. Doctors, they mean well, but I really question and challenge where they're at. Think about it. If I feel better, they lose a customer. They call it a patient, but really I'm a customer. So it's not really in their financial best interest, their family's best interest, for me to get better. You know, as you think, I say, yeah, that makes sense. When you think about some of the things that they're doing, giving food to a distressed body, giving drugs to a distressed body, how can it help me get better? It's like fighting a war for peace. It's like, hey, I haven't had a drink. I'm celebrating my being drinking free. Let's have a beer to celebrate. That doesn't make any sense. You got to take care of yourself and look out all the time. I'm very happy and very proud to say that I no longer eat for taste. I no longer eat to get full. I eat because I'm nourishing my body. It's like going to the gas station. We don't really care what color the gas is. We don't care if your tank is full. You put enough gas in, that works, to get you from here to there to do what you have to do. That's how I look at my food. Food is my nutrition, and it works rather well. And if it tastes good, and if it fills me up, bonus. Similarly, I know that'll help me live longer. The idea for me is not necessarily to live longer. I just want to add some quality to my years right now. And that's what I think we should all be thinking about, adding some real quality of life by not eating bad foods that slow you down, they get you nauseous, they get you sick, they lead to other diseases. Don't eat, crappy food. Eat some good food. Right? I don't have a whole lot more to say. I came up here to share with you people because I care. By playing the game called American Society and realize, hey, there's fun stuff. If they can afford to advertise on TV food, don't eat it. I mean, think about the world that we live in right now. The Food and Drug Administration of this country did not tell you what the World Health Organization told you 2 months ago, that all processed foods cause cancer, as in all. The World Health Organization said that, not our own FDA. That's because they're paid off not to let people say about that. Think about these things. That's how that game is getting played right now. And if you think that when your doctor prescribes drugs to you, he's not getting a kickback, wake up. Whether it's in buying lunches or dinners for his staff or just outright cash under the table, let's see, where are they making all their money? That's how they're playing the game. Be careful. I'm not a martyr kind of thing or a victim. I'm definitely not a victim. But the fix is in, folks. You're here right now for a good reason to hear what this man has to say and to take a ride over to Hippocrates and see what they're all about. I'm living proof that being a raw vegan stops and reverses all diseases. And of course, a quick commercial. The magazine's left in your chair. Look at page 45. If you want to hear about anything else I had to say, it's all right there for you. I wish you all a good day and enjoy what Dr. Brian has to say.
That's great, Gerard. Thank you so very much. Living testimonial. Let's give him another hand. Good. So we want to thank builders of the highway. We want to thank the city of Riviera Beach. And we want to thank each and every one of you for coming today. Are you excited to hear from Brian Clement? Yeah. Excellent. He's a licensed nutritionist. He's also a PhD. Him and his wife, Anna Maria Clement, have a dedication of nearly a century of their personal lives into this field. You're looking at someone who has been fully submerged in a field that's been controversial for some time now. And, as I stated already, very, very close by. So we again would like to invite each and every one of you to come visit. So I'm going to now turn it over to Brian Clement. Enjoy.
Thanks for coming out here on this brisk Saturday morning. Give yourself a hand. God bless you. This week was a momentous week. We honored Martin King, and I don't say this because we're in an African American community. I say it because Coretta King and I were bosom buddies. We were really, really close friends. And I didn't know it back 30 years ago when I met that extraordinary human being that I needed a mission mentor, because I'd been on a mission for 15 years before I met her. And that mission was to bring light and to bring truth and to bring honesty back to this nation that we call the United States of America. Because it's overtime and it's getting worse daily. If you just see what we're enduring this year as a political contest, you know what I mean. We are going from a nation that was revered and respected, that everywhere in the world people prayed to God that they could come here and live with us in this sense of freedom, to a laughingstock. We're a laughingstock now. 500,000 people in England just voted this week to ban one of our presidential candidates from coming to the country. Yes, well, just read, listen. Don't watch the TV. So why I bring this up is because it's a privilege for me. I've been living here in Palm Beach County for 30 years to be invited into Riviera Beach, which I revere and do agree that this is a beautiful community. And God bless African Americans because you created the culture of the United States. So give yourself a hand. Now we start beating the hell out of the system, because it needs a lot of beating. Up until last year, for 5 years, as I traveled the globe and asked questions to 250,000 people in 29 countries, one of the questions I asked is, how many of you feel safe when you or a family member or loved one or a friend is in a hospital? Do you know how many people raise their hand out of 250,000 people in 29 countries? Not one. And if I asked you the same question, not one of you would raise your hand. You wouldn't go to the hospital 5 minutes from here and think that it's a place that you feel is safe. Now, something's wrong with that, people. Something seriously wrong with that. A hospital should be safer than my home. I don't have nurses running around looking at me all night long when I'm sleeping, do I? So you have a system that should be caring for you, that you have to be concerned about. And what happened is we got lost. Our souls, our hearts, our minds, and our integrity got lost in this nation. What built this nation was courageous people. And basically, who now leads us and who we have become as a public and a population are weak and broken people who are looked at as consumers. The objective of the powers that be today is to have you consume. There's no other reason for you to be alive as far as these people are concerned. You're numbers and consumers. And so, without integrity, without values, without virtues, what ends up happening is we start to do really, really bad things to a point where we even harm ourselves. Even harm ourselves. That's right. And we're harming ourselves to the deepest level today. Now, many years ago, one of my other friends said to me, the way that they can keep the public down is with food and medicine. that there's no better way to shut them up, keep them in their house, with the damn clicker looking at 800 channels of TV, eating fried chicken. Want to keep people down? Do it. Because it shuts off your brain, and it shuts off your heart, and it shuts off your soul. And if you don't believe that, I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you. You've got to understand that you are a pawn, that you're feeding into the system. You're feeding the system. Who's watching out for you? My friend here basically said the FDA. You know who the FDA gets their funding from? The drug companies. 60% of the money that gives the salaries to the people who work for your government, the FDA, comes from the very companies they're supposed to be monitoring. Now you tell me that's something wrong with that? Yeah. And the other night I was watching on our enlightened, liberal public broadcast an hour show against supplementation funded by CBC, Canadian Broadcast, who really love me, as well as New York Times. And why? Because they want to tell you not to take care of yourself. They want to tell you there's only one option, and the option is get doped up. And they're doping you up good. And there's some of you sitting here doped up, and you don't even know why you're doped up. They've made the #1 drug now in the world antidepressants. So you don't have to go on the street now to get it anymore. You go to the guy with a white coat and the stethoscope. If life is just a little bit too hard for you, well, damn it, just take dope. Get over it, man. Keep you down. I'm going to tell you, they're going to keep you down. 80% of antibiotics are used on viruses. They do not work on viruses. If you go to 18 years old, you go to pre-med, first thing you're going to learn is antibiotics are amazingly good for bacteria. God knows how many millions of people's lives they've saved for bacteria. But viruses, they don't work, but 80% of them go for that. Now we get to the monster, the one that's almost a sacred cow because this makes the most money, cancer. Cancer. Upward of $1 million to treat somebody with cancer in your free nation. $1 million to treat. And 93% of the people that are treated for cancer will die from cancer. That's pretty bad return. I don't know any other business on the planet Earth that can fail 93% of the time, keep putting their prices up, and have all of you pawns going along with the program. I don't know how many of you ever thought why you don't want to live near Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island, or, by the way, stick a cell phone to your head for too long. It's because of radioactivity. Because why you don't want to do that is it gives you cancer. So I could take the healthiest person in the world, give you radiation, give you cancer. But what happens when you get cancer? They give you radiation. Wake up, people. You don't wake up, you're going to go to sleep. It's not going to be pleasant. They're going to be sucking money out of your pocket as they do. Smile, laugh. You know why you have to laugh? Because it's heartbreaking. It's wrenching. It's sad. And you think, why have I let this happen? Why did I buy into this insanity that we call civilization? This is civil. It's civil to mistreat people, to abuse people. It's civil to do that? I don't think it's civil. This country, I was always very proud to be an American. I still am proud to be an American. But what has happened to our hearts? What has happened to our compassion? If a Republican or a Democrat got into office 30 years ago, it wasn't a big deal. Now the diversity with that is so big, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And is one side for the people is more than the other side? Slowly but surely that's going away. Because your Supreme Court, we call them supreme, these are the lowest people in the United States, the least patriotic human beings on the planet Earth, or the majority of that Supreme Court. They made a law that you could spend as much money as you possibly want on electing a person. That was the day democracy went away in the United States of America. That's the day that democracy went away. And we all quietly, with our clickers and our potato chips, let it go. Oh, that's not a good thing. You all have an opinion, but you don't get out anymore. Back when I was a kid, we got out. We didn't like Vietnam, we got out. We didn't like being black and being beaten over the head, we got out. Do you realize that basically, when people get out today, they put you 4 or 5 blocks away from the media? They don't even show it. The biggest protest ever in the history of the United States was in Washington, D.C. in January when George Bush took the presidency. But you didn't know that because they didn't show it on TV. You never saw that on TV, did you? You probably didn't know it, let's be honest, until I told you right now. The biggest protest ever in the history of Washington, D.C., United States. Now, the good news is that there's a remedy. It's called self-motivated, value-driven responsibility. Every time there's been a movement that changed humanity, made us better, made us compassionate, made us loving, made us strong, it was an individual that did it. It was never the government that did it. Show me one time ever a government led us into the light. Hasn't happened. It's been individuals lead us into lights. And you are an individual. You've been having beaten out of you so that you don't think you are equal to Mahatma Gandhi or Martin King. You are equal. You have no difference between these people. These are not superior or super people. They are human, and if you're not living at that level, you're subhuman. That's simple. You're living a subhuman existence. But that's another way that they give you a schism. They basically tell you, oh, you're not smart enough. You're not cunning enough. You're not articulate enough. You can't do anything. Well, let me tell you, they're not special people. They're just people. When's the time you're going to be a person? When's it going to be time you take your life back? When's it going to be time you say no to ignorance and stupidity and quit blaming people for your circumstance? I know all this nonsense is going on, but I'm not going to blame those people. I blame you and me if we don't do something about this. And it's just a 2-letter, easiest word in the English language. No. No, I won't do it anymore. I won't buy that nonsense you call food. That, by the way, internationally, starting in this nation, major commercial food you buy out of all your major grocery stores have opiates laced into it. I want this to sink in because none of you know this, I'm sure. You're going to think I'm making this up. I want you to challenge anything I say today. Those of you listening on TV, you better get on that damn internet this minute because what I'm telling you is true. That every bit of the commercial food that you get at a fast food restaurant, your cookies, have opiates laced into them. Now, why do you think those companies have opiates laced into them? Because they want your babies to get addicted to that. They want you to get addicted to that. So you buy that product until the day you die. An early death, by the way. Sugar wasn't enough. Now, who did I learn that from? The former head of the Food and Drug Administration. After he left, Dr. Kessler, he gained compassion, and he woke up. Now he's working full-time on childhood obesity. You think we're sick now? You wait. 70% of our children are overweight, obese, or morbidly obese. The African American community, it's more. You say you're on an African American diet. You're on a slave diet. It's not an African American diet. Go to Africa. Watch the way people eat in Africa. They look at you and say, what the hell are these people doing? You've got to be out of your mind, African American diet. My good friend, crazy and smart at the same time, Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory said to me many years ago, he said, they took the chains off and gave us a food. You know what? Slavery didn't go away. Minimum wage took over. Now the slave owners basically no longer have to house you and feed you. They give you $11 an hour. And by the way, it's no longer for the African American community exclusively. It's for anyone who doesn't stand up for themselves. I can bring you into neighborhoods all over this nation where there's not one person of color that has the same problem today. I can show you in 20 years that we went from 20% of the population that had the money to today 1% of the population in 20 years have the money. And all these people, they seem not to even understand the rest of us exist. The last presidential election, did you happen to notice what was said in Boca Raton? Half the people don't matter. Half the people, they just don't matter. And that's what the 1% thinks. And if somehow you have some sick idea that there's something going on other than that, you're wrong. So you've got to be responsible. There's a remedy. We've been teaching it for 60 years. This is our 60th anniversary. Before there was an alternative health care, a holistic health care, a natural health care, there was Hippocrates Health Institute. That started in Boston when our founder was told she was going to die of stage 4 cancer, reversed it, and opened our doors in 1956. And back in 1987, we opened our doors here in Palm Beach County after looking all over the nation for the appropriate place to move, and we made the right choice. Now it's time our community comes in here. 2-letter word. What do you have to learn? No. But when you say no, a lot of you don't want to do that because it puts you in a position where you have to now do something. If you go along with the program, you think it's easy. It's not easy. It's easy not to go. You've got to understand, no means yes, I will do it. The word no means a 3-letter word, yes, I will do it. Yes, although I'm addicted to these foods. Don't think I was a big fat guy, 250 pounds, smoking dope every day, smoking cigarettes, 3 packs every day. I was there, people. So it's not that I'm a skinny white guy who has an education that comes here and yells at you. I was there with you. I grew up in the New York area. And I can tell you something, it wasn't easy. When I said no, I had to say yes. And I didn't like me, so saying yes to me was pretty tough. So the first thing to become responsible, you got to learn what you like about yourself. What is it that is of value that I should take care of this person? And until you come to that understanding, you'll sabotage your life. You'll intentionally, but unconsciously, eat the wrong food. If that's not enough to sedate you, you'll drink the booze, which they, by the way, you ever notice the worst drug in the world, alcohol? They call it alcohol and drugs. What drug is worse than alcohol? How many families do you know that have been separated from heroin addiction? I don't know many. But alcohol? 1/3 of the families I grew up with were separated with. Abuse happened. Fathers didn't work because of the drug we call alcohol. So if food's not enough, you take the alcohol. That's not enough, you take the dope. Just the pain, as it gets deeper, you do more harm to yourself. But food, because it has opiates in it, is taking dope now. So you got to say no to that. And you got to challenge me, because you're going to say, this guy's got to be wrong. This is the first time I've ever heard it. Well, I learned this from the former head of the Food and Drug Administration, Dr. David Kessler. You may want to read his book called The End of Overeating. So read it from him. Read what I say. Second thing you've got to say is, it is not a natural and normal process to get old, become decrepit, and get sick. That is not a natural and normal process. That is a process that we've created. As Caroline said correctly, the CBC, that's the Center for Disease Control, CDC, basically states that 80% of all diseases are lifestyle created. So even your government, which basically doesn't tell you the truth most of the time, basically said that 80% of cancer, heart disease, type 2 diabetes is 100% lifestyle. That's not a disease. As is auto reflux, not a disease. These are lifestyle created. Restless leg syndrome is not a disease. You notice they're making new diseases up as we go? Because, boy, this is big money, man. And then they do the fear marketing to you, too. The fear marketing is the flu. Now, you used to have to go to a medical doctor to get a shot. when they had a surplus of flu vaccines. Now you can get it right at your local, every corner you can get a flu shot there from the pharmacist. Where's the vein? They don't know where the vein is, but they're looking for the vein. As long as they get the flu shot in. And they scare you. You know, they show that wonderful picture from 1918 with the nurse. They only have that one picture, I think. Every time they roll the thing out, that one picture of the nurse where the pandemic is there. And you say, oh my God, I better get down to my local pharmacy. So this is how it works. It works simply, it works clearly, and if you take your blinders off, you're going to see this. But to like yourself is where this all begins. If we don't learn to like ourselves, we will not do good for us. We will not be good husbands and good wives and good members of our community and good mothers and good fathers and good friends. Because if you are intentionally sedating yourself, your true heartfelt expression is impossible. It's impossible for you to be genuine. It's impossible for you to be truly honest and truly giving and energetic and what God made us to be. Companions and friends and parents and husbands and wives. We've got to take this veil of ignorance away from ourselves. If we don't blame other people. Don't say that somebody caused this. Did Mahatma Gandhi say that? Did he say, oh, the English Empire, by the way, the strongest empire in the history of humanity. 400 years they control the world. He went in and loved them out of the country. When I asked Coretta, how did Martin achieve this? He said, yes, verbatim did what Mahatma Gandhi did. I said, how did he know about him? He said, we went over. In the 50s, we went over and we studied every word that the man ever said. And we came back and we applied it, and it worked. But those of you who purport you're Christians in this room, purport, I don't believe it, by the way, if you read what Jesus Christ did, he said the same thing. Responsibility, not blame. Responsibility, not blame. When you say no, it means you have to say, yes, I'm going to do something good. Now, food is the number one way that you can radically and immediately change your health. And I mean health on a psychological, physiological, and spiritual basis. That's why every theology in the world's history, I don't care which theology you read, talks about food. On page 1 in Judeo-Christian theology, they tell you to eat the Hippocrates diet. Page 1. Now listen closely. You don't hear this in your churches. You don't hear this in your synagogues. Because somehow they've watered it down. Oh, we can't mess with their food because they're not going to come here anymore. That may be true. You're all doped up on food. You may not come back. These damn churches, they give you the worst food in the world. Let's have a get-together. They're killing you in the get-together. Honest to God. Watch yourself. And the worst, Christmas. Oh, yes, we're honoring Jesus' birth. They're the worst times. We're nuts. We're crazy people. We really are. I mean, you have to laugh at us, don't you? So now we're going to talk a little bit about what we've learned over the last 6 decades as a world's leader in natural health care. So living food substantiated. A living food is food that is literally growing at the time that you bite into it. Raw foods are the next best fare to living foods. They are often harvested weeks before consumption. Now, this is all new language to most of you, but I'm going to bring you back to the basics again. On this earth, we share it with 1,800,000 other species. So there's 1,800,000 other species we've identified. There's a lot more we haven't identified because we're really not that smart, but we've identified. 100% of those species in nature eat a 100% raw food diet. Now listen closely. 100% of every species other than the human species consume only raw, uncooked food in nature. Now, you're going to say a pigeon. You think a pigeon would be eating popcorn on the city street if they were given an option? You think your dog would be eating ground up grains if they were given an option? The only species that eats a cooked diet is your species. My species. Think of that. Now, that alone should wake somebody up and say, well, wait a minute. We're the enigma in this situation. So our founder, 60 years ago, when she reversed stage 4 cancer, got this because she wasn't formally educated as a scientist. She had an instinctual understanding. She said, well, let's look at chickens, let's look at dogs, and let's look at children, let's look at babies and see what they would gravitate to. And this is literally what she did to do the testing, the studies, and all of them would go immediately to the raw food. So she said, let's put people on a raw food, plant-based diet. Now, the other big con, you don't even know this, listen closely, people, because this is where you really get resistant to me, is this meat and dairy thing. So everyone always says, well, you know, through history, people were always hunter and gatherers. Let's give you some real numbers, not what the meat industry gives you, not what the dairy industry gives you. Since 1917, listen closely, people, part of your school books have been funded by the meat and dairy industry. So when you're in first grade, second grade, and by the way, when I went back at 50 years old to get a PhD, in my PhD program, part of the books I was reading was funded by the meat and dairy industry. They've told you things, again, through fear marketing, like if you don't eat meat, you're not going to have protein. Well, I would be dead, man, because 45 years ago, I gave up every animal food on the planet Earth. I'm in my mid-60s. Do I look dead? No. You do. Most of you look like you're dragging your ass in here. I'm going to tell you right now. And you're out there doing the thing, going right along with the program. The other thing they did for men, you know, this is how they get you. The poor women, you know, we've held you down really well so far. Start talking up. Start talking up. Bottom line is they've told the men, you're going to be a sissy if you don't eat meat. Right. Yes, sissy, you remember that. What are you talking about? You know that crap. When I was a teenager, we never thought about this, but we used to have like male competitions eating raw meat practically, you know. We'd go to a steakhouse, we'd say, one guy would say, cook it a little bit. This guy would listen and say, don't even cook it. And we'd eat it, you know. We thought that grew up. Now, you men, listen closely. You want to become feminine? Eat meat. You want to become sissy-like? Eat meat. And you don't trust me? I'm going to tell you why. Because to make that meat fat and big so they can make more money, they put female hormones into it. Well, you didn't know that? That's why our little girls today are having menstruation at 8 and 9 years old. That's why you see a lot more feminine men running around than you used to see running around. Ask the women. They're out there trying to find a man. And you guys are in there in the gym eating meat and walking like this? You think I'm kidding you, don't you? No, I wondered why I was feeling like that. You better laugh, because I'm telling the truth. But listen, men, closely. The women eat meat, they start to become more male-like. That's why they're talking back a lot more than they used to talk. Slack you on the side of the head. What? Shut up. My mother wouldn't have done that. No, she didn't eat as much meat. Now, here's a real fact. Here's a real fact. Do you realize that 60% of the people today in 2016 eat plant-based diets? That only 40% of the world eat animal-based diets? We're a minority. Even the white folks in here, you're a minority in this case. How about that one? Isn't that interesting? Oh, that couldn't be true. That's not what I read in my book. Oh, you mean the book that was funded by the meat industry? Now, the second one they got you on, it's all fear marketing, as I said, is the dairy stuff. Don't eat dairy, your bones are going to crumble. I always had this vivid picture. It was like Sodom and Gomorrah. If I didn't drink massive amounts of milk, these pillars called bones would crumble. Wasn't I shocked when I radically changed, lost 120 pounds, and started to read about real health, honest health, not what was being taught in the science classes, real health. When I found out that the number one cause for osteoporosis was drinking milk and eating the byproducts called cheese and yogurt. Was I stunned to find out? But as I got older, I started to realize that pretty much everything you and I were told, the opposite was true. Now, some of you know that here. You've been through that. But pretty much everything that I was told, listen closely, the opposite is true. And some of you are thinking, he couldn't be right on this one. I am right on this one. You want to get sick? You don't want to get complete proteins? Eat meat. Because meat, the way you and I choose to consume it, is not a complete protein. They slaughter the animal out west somewhere with cowboys. Hey, let's kill the cow. Texas, place like that, Really friendly places. Bottom line is, they freeze it, they ship it to you, you go to the Winn-Dixie, you buy it, 6 months later, usually it's 6 months, you cook it. Now, you think that thing has complete protein in it? Now, what happens, you get these big beer bellies. Now, when you're in Biafra or Ethiopia and you see starving kids, they have no weight on their body. They have big bellies. But we have big weight on our body with big bellies. That's protein deficiency. Now, how do I know this? We have a medical team. We do studies on everyone who comes to us. We do sophisticated blood tests and scanning. We have proof from thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that this is true. So the more meat and the more dairy you eat, the less protein you have. Who has the most protein? People who eat the kind of diet that Hippocrates has been teaching for 60 years. So who do we train? We train people who are fighting cancer and heart disease and diabetes and all these things. We also train Olympic athletes. You ever hear of Venus Williams? She came to us. Now, I thought I'd known big women in the past. Forget it. This poor woman was told, give up tennis. You're going to die in 5 years. And somebody came to her and said, go to this place, Hippocrates. And she came and she sat in my office after the 3-week program and said to me, with tears in her eyes, I went to the top people in the world. They told me the opposite of what you told me. I'm getting well. Why is it? I said, love, the system is corrupt. The system's corrupt. I said, they're not bad people. I don't think these are bad people that are literally scheming in their room saying, let's just rob money from these people. They're just ill-informed, misinformed, and being manipulated even more than you. You think the public's being manipulated. Can you imagine the people in healthcare? They can't even say something different than what the program says, because if they do, bingo, out they go, their license go. You can't even talk to a patient in a hospital, give them compassion, you'll be thrown out. You know how many doctors I know and nurses that were lost their job because they cared for patients? Can't spend more time than 5 minutes with the patient. Spend 10 minutes, out you go. So dairy food will cause osteoporosis, cause arthritis. And by the way, is the #1 cause for cancer in the world. Not because I say so, because the science is there. Overwhelming science. You say, well, how come I don't read about that? You think they're going to print that science? You think they're going to tell you meat causes heart attacks, strokes, and diabetes? Now, how do I know this to be a fact? This is not debatable. You can get the top research scientists in the world that you want to pick, put them here, and I'm going to win the debate. Because the difference between that guy and me, we have 60 years of scientific proof of what happens when you take away meat and dairy. And by the way, people don't come to us. Last night we graduated a group, as we do 52 weeks a year from around the world. There were people in that group that reversed multiple sclerosis, cancers, 3 different kinds of cancer, 4 people with diabetes, etc. Now, is this magic? No. It's yes. I'm going to be responsible. Yes, I'm going to do what it takes. Yes, I'm going to realize I'm an addict for food. Yes, I'm going to realize I'm manipulated. Yes, I'm going to say no. That's what it means. So now we're going to go a little bit further and show you other interesting things. The thing I said at first, and I hear all the time, is, isn't this a boring way to eat? The way you and I have been eating is boring. Meat and potatoes, potatoes and meat, ice cream, cake, and candy. Candy, 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 ice cream, cake, meat and potatoes. That's boring. But it's familiar. Familiar doesn't mean exciting. It just means familiar. Now, when you sprout a seed, listen to this. When you sprout a seed, germinate it, it becomes 10 to 30 times more nutritious. Who calls me this week? Our representative for Chad. I'm going to go up to Washington in April. She said, when I was at Hippocrates 2 years ago, you spoke about the project you were in the 1970s in India and in Egypt, where you brought seeds into starving communities and helped the people become nourished? I said, yeah. I said, do you know how sad it is that in this United States of America, that 600,000 children go to sleep hungry every night? Listen closely, people. I know we wiggle out of this stuff. Oh, just write a check, honey, write a check. We feel bad. Think about it. Let this be in your face. In this community, they're hiding, they're ashamed, but in this community, kids are going to sleep hungry every night. And even the ones that are eating are going to bed starving at night. In this community, in Palm Beach, in Manalapan, every community they're starving, but I mean hungry. And we are every day throwing away $3 million worth of seeds in the United States intentionally to keep the prices of grains low. Every day, $3 million times 365, and we have starving people. And all I'm telling you is if I take 1 pound of seed, I'm going to create 10 to 30 times more nutrition, and I'm going to create 10 times more in weight. 1 pound becomes 10 pounds of food. So 100 pounds of seed that we're throwing away becomes 1,000 pounds of food that, by the way, has complete protein, the best vitamins on the planet Earth, minerals, and essential fatty acids. Everything that's required to not only become healthy, but to flourish and thrive. Now, how come you never were told this? There's no money in telling people to take seeds and sprout them. But when I was in those villages with starving kids and holding back my tears, I watched what it did. Not we Western folk sending in condensed milk that we had surpluses of. You send it to a place like Africa, they die from condensed milk. But we justify it by feeling good. Well, we've done something, just like we did something when we outlawed some of the vaccines with mercury in it. We sent it to the third world. You didn't know that, did you? Listen closely, people. Challenge every word I say. I welcome you to. I welcome you to. Now, healthcare's foremost neglect has been the haunting absence of the knowledge that our bodies require energetic substance to function at primary as well as exceptional levels. Now, you and I have been taught that there's only nutrition in the food. Nutrition meaning what? Vitamins, minerals, proteins, essential fat. The most important part of food is the electromagnetic frequency in it. Now, let's go slow so you get what I'm saying. We're going to answer questions here in a minute. Your body's electric. Now, how many of you are doctors or nurses here? Raise your hand. You know what I mean. So when you go into a hospital and we do an ultrasound or we do an MRI or we do a CAT scan, we're checking the electromagnetic frequency of your body systems. You are electric. But because the chemical industry, we call the pharmaceutical industry, have control, they treat you with chemicals. At Hippocrates, we have $2 million worth of electromagnetic equipment. You're electric. When you drop dead from a heart attack, I don't go and get a vitamin and give it to you. What good's it going to do? What do I get? 2 electric probes, stick it on your chest, and bring your electric body back. So if we're electric, how many of you disagree we're electric now? Raise your hand. Somebody wasn't listening here. We're electric. Then where are we getting the electric from? From raw, living, plant-based food. Is there electric in the carcass of a dead animal? No way. When you die, they check you with electric. Oh, dead. Same thing with meat, man. There's no electric in meat, no electric in dairy food. Gone, bingo. You need electric for your electric body. I never thought of this, you say. You better start thinking about it. Because why people stay young and why people have the ability to reverse their own diseases is because of the electromagnetic frequency in raw food that every other creature on earth eats except you. Oh, well, how about that one? Never learned that. A lot of you have really a lot of educations. You study this stuff. How come they don't teach you these things? No money in it. Living food consumption not only properly nourishes and builds healthy anatomy and cell structure, it expands and accelerates potential for awareness and consciousness. The other thing that we've learned over the decades, we've done extensive ongoing research, is that you become dumber the worse you eat. You put sugar in, cross-circuit the brain. You put animal fat in, reduce the oxygen. The brain needs oxygen. If I grab your neck and start squeezing it and most of the oxygen's gone, are you going to be perky? You've been doing it by sticking meat and dairy and cheese and all this stuff. I mean, I did all that stuff. I was right there with you. Don't think I wasn't there. I was so thick in the head, it was unbelievable. Even if I wanted to be conscious, I didn't have the energy to be conscious. Now, watch this. Let's watch the extraordinary process of germination here. This is actually somehow it's not working. This is what seeds do. They come up through thick, heavy soil, and they reach to the sun. And this is where life is from. This is the essence of life. This is what your blood needs. This is what puts the electromagnetic frequency in you. And this I can feed to the poorest people in the world for pennies. There is no elitism in sprouting. I'm going to tell you that now. I can go to the poorest people on the planet Earth. I can go to Calcutta, India, Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and everyone can afford this food. And you can grow this in your kitchen window right here in Palm Beach County. Now, think about that just for a minute. And do you take one seed and one sprout? Do you know how many of these a day? I figured out a few months ago that I'm consuming about 5,000 different sprouts a day. Not different types, but 5,000, maybe 7 or 8 different kinds of sprouts, but a total of 5,000. And we're juicing this stuff. Now, this is by far the most nutritious food in the world and the least expensive food in the world that nobody has an inability to consume. Every single person can consume this food. Everywhere on the planet Earth. If you're in the coldest place in the world, if you lived in Lapland in Norway, you can grow this in your house. And if you lived on the equator, you can grow this in your house. Now, think about the other thing. That every time you have a little seed that's growing like that, it's a mother that's about ready to produce hundreds, if not thousands, of other seeds. This is God. This is nature we're talking about. This is so beautiful, man. Loosen up. Relax. This is a mother that literally can produce hundreds or thousands of other seeds. And you're taking that into your body, that power in your body. You're going to feel it immediately. First, you're going to feel sick because it's going to push all the waste out, the negativity, the slowness, the sluggishness. You're going to detoxify. You're going to feel like have an exorcism going on, and I mean it. How do I know? I did it. 120 pounds worth, I did it. But then after that, you're going to feel the vitality, the life, and the consciousness come back into you. Or you can stay down. Stay down, complain, and whine, and yell, and scream. Now, that's what we did back at UCLA in 1975. We photographed the electromagnetic frequency of sprouts. We found out in every form of sprout that it has 2 feet of energy in every direction around it. And then my colleague who just passed on 2 years ago, Dr. Valerie Hunt, started to photograph people consuming these. That was in 1981. Now, we won't have the time today to show it. Maybe sometime in the future we will. When you eat this, the electromagnetic frequency of your organ systems and bodies increase. This is the future of nutrition we're talking about today, right here in the City Hall of Riviera Beach. This is the future of nutrition. They're not teaching this at Harvard or Oxford or Stanford. You're learning it here today. Over the past few decades, we at Hippocrates have conducted research into the electrical frequency of our food and the effects that electrical charge has on the frequency of healthy cells. In conjunction with the photographic research conducted at UCLA in the mid-'70s, which measured the relative energy level in different foods, we have created a list of foods from highest to lowest in energy content. So these foods here you see to my right, these are loaded with energy. Now look at this one. Can you imagine this extraordinary? You have thousands on this tray. This, if I put it in the soil out here, in a matter of 7 weeks would be a 15-foot plant that in the morning faces the east and at night faces the west, with thousands of seeds on it. Think of this. Relax. I have thousands of those here. You could literally, as this will happen, by the way, with this, I'm sure, cut it down, juice it, and drink that. Now, if you don't think that's powerful, you better pick up and leave right now. That's as simple as I can possibly get. This is power. This is food that brings you back to life. This is food that forces you to say no and you say, yes, I'm happy with yes. I'm going to be responsible. Why are wheatgrass sprouts and edible weeds? So now when I get in really, really poor places, they say I can't get seeds. Guess what? You can survive on weeds. How many of you from New York City area here? There's a guy called the Weed Man. Listen closely. This is a funny story. About 35, 40 years ago, the Weed Man used to sneak into Central Park in New York City and give people tours in New York and say, for 7 to 8 months a year, you can survive out of eating weeds here. Not that you'd want to, but you could, if necessary, if every store closed down in New York City. So they used to arrest him. Finally, a new park commissioner 20 years ago said, wait a minute, it's costing us $30,000, $40,000 a year to incarcerate this guy. Let's hire him. So if you ever go to New York, they never tell much about this. Call the park commission. This is a great tour, by the way. And in the middle of the heart of New York, they'll give you a weed walk and show you how you could survive on weeds. But guess what? Florida has a whole lot more weeds and better weeds than there. There's nowhere on earth that you cannot survive in it. And we have people starving. How many of you are in the elite military here? Well, I'll tell you what the elite military does. They say if all else fails, you can survive permanently on what? Grass and weeds. So all the elite, the Green Beret, the Navy SEALs are told, survive on weeds. You never hear this stuff. They don't want you to know that it costs nothing to eat. Now, not to say you want to do that. I don't want to eat weeds my whole life. I want to go to a health restaurant and sit down and eat. But the reality, if I had to, that's how powerful these things are. Consume life force food raises the electrical frequency of cells so that they can combat every known disease. So if you have a disease, and most of you do, it's called premature aging, even if you haven't been diagnosed with a disease, this is going to help to prevent premature aging. And if you have a disease like cancer or any other disease, it's going to increase the electromagnetic frequency of the cell to prevent the cells from mutating. Not because I say so, because I'm telling you so. This is what we have learned in 60 years. Now that's what a sprout does. It comes from this incredible soil. This is just what we showed you, a sunflower here. I get so excited about this, sometimes I have a fantasy, and it turns into looking like that. That's what's, now everyone's interested. All the guys, wait a minute. So what we found is that around these sprouts, right here, you have different colors that manifest hertz. And I'll explain this in detail to you. White around it is 2,500 hertz. Gold is 2,100 hertz. Purple, a minimum of 1,700 hertz. A healthy cell is 75 hertz. Most of us walking around who are not with a disease are at 50 hertz. If you have cancer, it's less than 10 hertz. If you have diabetes, it's less than 20 hertz. If you have multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, or Alzheimer's disease, it's less than 25 hertz. So if we are going to increase, by having this magnificent electromagnetic frequency in the food, the frequency in your cells, if you have these diseases and increase the electric, do you think it's going to help to reverse the disease? How many say yes? Of course. So nobody's talking about this in mainstream medicine, by the way. This is the most important thing in science today, but nobody's talking about it. Fully healthy and functional cells vibrate at 75 hertz, as measured by Dr. Hunt. When consuming this high hertz variety of food and taking into account the necessary energy required to digest, eliminate, and alkaline acid processing, they support your trillions of cells to be functioning at their perfect level. Even organic raw food, such as lettuce, is measured only at 1,000 hertz. Corn is 2,075 hertz. Within 30 minutes after removing it from soil, all raw food dramatically plummets to 50 hertz. So eating raw food picked like a lettuce from California 5 weeks ago, and that's about what it is, 5, 6 weeks. So what you and I are buying from the whole food market, organic raw salad, has no life in it and very little nutrition because it's been taken from the soil, literally. Now, is it much better than chemicalized? Absolutely. Do I still eat it? Absolutely. But I'm not looking at that as where I get nutrition. Now, if you had a backyard, you're growing it, yeah, that's a different story. You go out and cut it and wash it and eat it. But in 30 minutes, after picking a head of lettuce, 52% of the nutrition is gone. 30 minutes. Sprouts are germinated from seeds of a wide variety of plants. They contain a power plant of energy and nutrient fuel that is built into the structure so they can create large plants that often spawn thousands of other seeds. This eruption of rich substance is why sprouts are the most nutritious land-based food. Nature created natural occurring pesticides for each of these seeds so that they would never perish from the plague of pests or creatures. These natural safety mechanisms literally have become known as phytochemicals. Now, I'm going to speak briefly about this, that search out and assist the immune system to arrest disease. Oncologist researchers at Johns Hopkins University tagged the phytochemical sulforaphane with the tag name phytochemo. So back in 1992, Johns Hopkins did a study to find the new generation of drugs to go against cancer. They found the most significant anti-cancer agent they've ever discovered in broccoli sprouts. Now, let me repeat what I just said. You don't hear this, do you? Okay. So the two of the most important cancer researchers on earth said, this is the most impressive thing we've ever seen to destroy and kill cancer, isolated. And it's called sulforaphane. It was so impressive they gave it the name plant chemo. Now, it was so shocking that Johns Hopkins corruptly, for 4 years, controlled broccoli sprouts. That they actually went around the country quietly and said, if this wonderful group of people that grow these sprouts were growing broccoli sprouts in the 90s, they would have been called by the FDA and told, shut it down, you don't have the right to grow broccoli sprouts. Now, thank God there are occasionally, this is an oxymoron, legitimate judges. There was a legitimate judge in Maryland that said, forget that, and reversed that ruling by the mid-90s. So if you just took a handful of broccoli sprouts and put it in your salad 3, 4, 5 times a week, what that would do to prevent cancer is shocking. And God, if you have cancer, it's miraculous. How do I know that? We've been using this stuff for 60 years. On average, 1 pound of seed renders 10 pounds of highly nutritious food. Wipe out world starvation, hunger, and by the way, the whole wallet market may not be as expensive when you get there. Watch this beauty. It's the most common sprout called the mung bean sprout, Chinese bean sprout. It's almost like art. In every Asian population throughout the world, this is a staple. It's a complete protein. If you have premature graying of your hair or balding or prostate problems or breast problems, eat lots of these. Chinese bean sprouts. There's not a grocery store on the planet Earth you can't buy these. And they're so inexpensive to grow. They look like dancers, don't they? Get a little respect, people. A lot of you say you have fear for God and belief in God. This is God in action you're watching. Give it a hand. We're going right to the core today. We're not messing around. 10 reasons to start sprouting. Economic, nutrition. They're all organic. You worry about organic food, you're growing it in your house, you know it's organic. And it costs pennies to do it. Availability, space. When I have all my 4 children at home and my wife and I, in one window in our house right here in Lake Worth, with a rack that big, we made half the food we ate on a weekly basis. This tall to the floor in one window. Freshness. You talk about fresh food, the fresh food movement. What could be fresher? You could turn around in the kitchen or your bedroom and pick it up and eat it. You're growing it right there. Digestibility. These are pre-digested food. So most of you sitting here have digestion elimination problems because of this nonsense we call the American diet. That's a commercial diet to just suck more money out of you and your health out of you. And this will digest. Versatility. It's endless. Do you know how many hundreds and thousands of seeds? One of the things that excite me when I travel the globe now, I find new seeds 45 years later I've never heard of. And I sneak them back in and I grow them. Now, you hear about seeds today you never heard of. How many of you knew what the heck quinoa was, 10 years ago? Now, quinoa is popular. I knew it was popular. Uncle Ben now makes quinoa. That was, it hit critical mass with that now. But, meals, you have whole meals. This sweet little girl from Georgia, back in Boston, 40 years ago, showed us, I'm going to make a cylinder, a glass cylinder, and could open on this side and that side, put a whole lot more seeds in there than can grow, and when they grow, you push it out, and you can cut it, it's bread, it's raw bread. And you could eat that. You could live on that totally, completely, without anything else, because it's the most protein, the most vitamins, the most minerals, the most essential fats. And ecology. Most of you don't realize that it's not your cars that pollute the planet. What do you think it is that pollute the planet, number one? The way you eat. The way you eat. Eating meat and dairy causes over 51% of greenhouse gases. And we should worry a whole lot here in Palm Beach County because we're going to be one of the first land masses on Earth to go down. Now, most of you don't know because, the powers that be, the boys you hear yelling and screaming on TV every day, tell you there's no such thing as environmental degradation and warming. Well, ask the people who now no longer have a place to live in the South Pacific, indigenous tribes. Ask the people in Alaska, the islands off Alaska that are gone. I know, I've been living here a long time. The beach I used to walk on the rare Sunday I'm still in home, no longer is there for me to walk on. In Miami, it doesn't rain for 2 months, and parts of Miami Beach are flooding now. So this is real, people. And why it is you choose to eat meat and dairy. You say, why? Do you know how much land it takes to make one steer? You know how many thousands and thousands of people you can feed off the land you make for one steer? And you know what we do? We no longer grow the steer here. We have the poor people in Brazil or somewhere else grow it. They stick it on a plane. They fly it up here. All of that degradation of the environment. Then you cook it. You process it. What do you think McDonald's and all these, the rainforest is being cut down because of these people? So these are things we're going to go through quick, and then we're going to open for questions and answers. There's such varieties, everything from onion sprouts to oregano sprouts, teff sprouts, Ethiopian, amazing food. Water chestnuts can sprout, yams can sprout. It's just endless amounts of sprouts. Now your last one we're going to see, and then we'll open for some questions. This is actually wheat growing. Listen, you actually hear it growing. Again, this is God in action. Beautiful. Give a hand again to nature. So what I'm going to do is we'll try to keep this as organized as possible, but stand up for a minute, get some blood to your head. We've been sitting there yelling at you for long enough. Get up and put your hands up in the air, move them around, shake a little bit. Bounce. Maybe you can find a marker. Okay, we can sit back down and we'll go to the back of the room. We have about a half an hour. I don't know if they throw us out of here exactly at time, but if not, we can go a little longer. And anyone in the back of the room have any questions, then we'll work our way forward. Yes.
Testing,
Loud and clear.
1, 2.
Okay. This gentleman's going to get a microphone for you.
Testing.
Okay, well, I have a couple of questions, so I'll make them brief. One, when you talked just now about you can sprout even yams. So when you sprout the yams, you're eating the sprouts or the entire?
Well, this is a great question. I mean, there's still a group of people in Africa that about 90% of their diet is sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes, yams, they're different families. So yam, sweet potato are from different parts of the world. Now let me show you, thank you. Let me show you what I mean. Most of us remember, probably you remember, you're a little older like me, back in grade school, a really smart teacher said, here, take a jar with water, take a sweet potato yam, put toothpicks here. Remember that? And it grew. Well, you do the same thing. Now, I would get 6 or 7 or 8 of these, and then get a decorative clay pot, stick it in the corner of your house and water it. Now, what comes out of there is a vine with these succulent, delicious greens on them that, by the way, are one of the most nutritious greens on the planet Earth, filled with calcium, have almost every one of the essential amino acids, vitamin A, vitamin E. Just shocking. And do you know how little it costs? You'll give this to your grandchildren, by the way. It will be part of your legacy. As long as you take care of that and keep organic soil there, you can do that. And I'd put 10, 12, 13, depending upon how big the clay pot is, and just put it in there.
Okay, so real quickly, I heard you speak once before on reversing heart disease. I wanted you to speak on that. And also, I promised someone that I would ask about reversing kidney damage or kidney disease.
Well, let's start with that, because that one angers me so much. Let me also say this to you. One of my philanthropic endeavors is for the last 5 years, I've been working with a colleague of mine on an internet project called TheRealTruthAboutHealth.com. You may want to write this down if you're interested in a lot of information. TheRealTruthAboutHealth.com. And so they've interviewed me for 200 hours on different subjects. And you can Google it. So anything on kidney, we did a whole 2 hours on kidney, and I'll explain why it angers me so much, and heart disease, et cetera. But I'm going to give clear, concise answers. Do you realize that we now predict with the current statistics that by the year 2050, 1/2 of the American population will have kidney disease? So let me have that sink in again. Many of you sitting here in the African American community are the first people that get it. Now, why are the Hasidic Jews and the African Americans the first groups of people getting kidney problems? Look at the way you eat. This is massive amounts of animal protein that your body cannot process, and the kidneys break down. And once they break down, you get on dialysis. I'd rather be dead than be on dialysis. You're in there 3 days a week. You're married to that machine, and your lifespan is going to be shortened. So it is animal protein. 2 words, animal protein that does it. Sure, it doesn't help to drink sodas and other things too with genetically modified foods in it. You know what they put in soda now? High fructose corn syrup. You know what that is laced with? Roundup. The same Roundup we can go to Home Depot and buy. And your government basically allows it down. That's why 2 nights ago we had a major 3rd conference on autism. I'm even more angry about autism because at least I have to 2050 to do something about kidney. Autism, 9 years from now, 50% of the children born in America will have autism. I will once again repeat it, because you're going to think I'm making this up. 50%. Now, I've been yelling about that for 30 years, but guess who came to our rescue recently? The lead research scientist from MIT. She came out of the closet 5 months ago and gave the same statistic. Dr. Seneff. If you're interested, within a week it's going to be on the Hippocrates website. You can look at the first 2 where we brought mothers in from this community who reversed autism with their children on this program. And you can do the same with this. Once you're on dialysis, you can't reverse it. But if you stop the nonsense, you can stop the kidney problem. Hundreds of people I've worked with in 45 years, I've watched them do it. And there's not magic in this. It's hard work. Have to say the word what? And yes, I'm going to do it. Now, heart disease is so easy. Other than 3% of heart disease, it's not a disease. It's a lifestyle choice. 3% is a disease. The cardiologist will find a mechanical problem or something is not working in your body, the machinery of your body. Everyone else is under stress, eating animal foods, and sugars, which your animal body produces fat out of. That's why you get fat from eating sugar, by the way. Your body produces fat from eating sugar. And I'm going to get in detail on this in a minute. And lack of exercise. So remember that our great-grandparents all exercised. It wasn't an option. They didn't go to the LA Fitness to do it. They did something called farming. They had to, or they'd starve. So they did weightlifting. They did aerobic exercise. They did stretching exercise. What do? Even me, I exercise 12 to 15 hours a week, no matter where I am in the world. I am doing a fraction of what my great-great-grandparents did. A fraction. Every day they did more than that. So that's it. Now, bottom line is, there are some people that have genetic predispositions to it, and we're learning that. Now we have genetic testing that it's not a big part of it, but we have genetic testing that basically shows mom and dad didn't give you the gene for homeocysteine, as an example. So in that case, we know we have to give you a certain supplement. Or mom and dad didn't give you the gene to keep cholesterol down, so your cholesterol is going to be higher. But this is all doable, easy stuff. My good friend and colleague, Dr. Esselstyn, who I've been on European tours with, basically he's done 30 years of research. He's never worked with a person that did what he said that didn't reverse cardiovascular disease. And unlike him, I'm the newer generation. He says, you don't need supplements. I say, yes, supplementation's required in these situations. And there's certain ones that are really, really, really good if you have that. And don't think it's genetic in your family. It's your family ate alike. They think alike. They live alike. They act alike. Genetics are less than 3%. Yes? How do you get young and sexy? Don't know if I can answer that one. Okay, so let's go through chemotherapy. How many of you really know what chemotherapy is? Okay. It's a bomb. I mean, there was Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and chemotherapy. You smile. You know what I'm telling you is right. Oh, it's nasty when you think about this stuff. Now, who in their right mind would ever intentionally go near chemotherapy? Nobody. But when you get sick and you feel fragile and you feel helpless and you feel like, God, I don't know enough about this, and somebody's giving you a bill of goods, that this is going to work, it's going to work. When again, I'll give you the statistic that I read out of their journals, by the way. I don't fabricate any of this. 93% of the people that are medically treated for cancer will eventually die from cancer. Pretty interesting, isn't it? That's their statistics out of the AMA Journal, New England Journal of Medicine, British Journal of Medicine, Swedish Journal of Medicine, etc. So why do they tell you when you have chemotherapy and or radiation that you have to wear a mask, you can't be near people, because it destroys the what? Now, what do you think God put in your body to prevent disease and reverse disease? That's weak shit. What did God put in your body to prevent and to reverse disease?
Your immune system.
What are we doing to the immune system? So do I need to say any more? I mean, this is the world we live in today. Remember I said earlier, you look at what they tell you, the opposite is true. Second question. How do I pick up young men in Speedos? Oh, that's a rare question. You're right here in Riviera Beach? Well, we have, let me answer these and then I'll get to you, I promise. Okay, so when you have bronchial dilations and bronchial problems like that, you have to understand that there are, like right now at Hippocrates, our medical team takes something called glutathione that you can vaporize and you can actually inhale it. For instance, we have a man that was told 5 years ago he was going to die from a stage 4 cancer. He hasn't died because he's on the program, but he was on oxygen. Once we put him on the vaporizer, the lungs started to come back to life again because it has what? Glutathione. Now what glutathione is, very simply, It's probably the most important nutrient we ever discovered because it feeds something called the mitochondria. The mitochondria are the brains of your cell. Now, all of you have 100 trillion cells. Let that go in. 100 trillion cells. And if we can get the brains in those cells to work, then we start to have elasticity in the bronchial area, in the lungs, wherever it may be. So that would be my strong suggestion. Of course, getting rid of the things that disturb the lungs. The African community, by the way, 88% of you are severely allergic to dairy food. Did you know that? Yeah. White people, we have a gene mutation. In my book, Dairy Deception, I write about this. There were a handful of white people in Northern Europe had a gene mutation that occurred. Not that it's good for us, but somehow we're mutant. You know, if you look at the original people were Ethiopian. So let's go back to real anthropology, not what they're going to give you, the baloney. We know exactly the valley people came from. This is not like maybe. This is where they came from. I actually do a 2.5-hour, someday we may want to do that, 2.5-hour presentation on human history and diet. And we know what our ancestors looked like, and these people were not that smart. Some of them went and lived in the north. Now, why we got white is because, number one, why people are black is to protect you from the sun. Why people are white is we're not getting enough sun. Period. And so what happened along the way is that these people mutated. So the whiter we are, the more mutant we are from the real human anatomy and physiology. Now, what's interesting, that's a good thing for African Americans and a bad thing. Because the good thing is that you should be inherently and naturally stronger, and that's why black athletes are generally stronger, more fit, have more endurance, because you're closer to the human people, the original people. The bad thing is that you'll go down quicker than us doing the wrong thing. That's a bad thing. You'll go down much quicker than us because purity doesn't take nonsense. Corruption knows corruption. That's simple. So we're more corrupt, so we don't go down as quick. We go down slower. So that's why, for instance, I forget the statistic. It's between 25 and 40-year-old African American men have double the heart disease that white people have. And we have shocking high amounts. I mean, when they did autopsies in the last 10 years on people below 21 that had died, 78% had cardiovascular disease. Now, that wasn't the black population. We're talking about the whole population. But what we're saying, African American men between 25 and 40 years old had double the heart disease. Why? Because you can't handle the nonsense as much as we can. But stronger you are. So you should be living longer, stronger, better than we are. And bronchial will go down because dairy is number one problem. Number two is wheat products, gluten products. That you weren't meant to ever do that. That was another silly thing. The original bread, by the way, were sprouts that they'd hit with a mortar and pestle and dry in the sun. Then some guy in Europe said, hey, we're going to sell it better if we can put some yeast in, blow it up, and put some sugar in, and it looks big, so we can sell a loaf this big for 3 times more money. That's how that bread started, believe it or not. And that's what you and I got hooked on. Okay, next question here. Well, let's talk about dead cells. Somebody said, can living food restore dead cells? No. When a cell is dead, it's dead. So I'm not going to bring you back to life. That's simple. You're a goner, you're a goner. I can't bring you back to life. But every second we're sitting here, you have millions of cells being created. They're called stem cells. Now, this is a beautiful story, too, another proof of God, as we say. And those stem cells are like little innocent children, 12, 13-year-old kids. I'll do anything you want me to do. So, for instance, if I hit my arm and my cells die here, I get a bruise and they're dying, the stem cell knows to come up here and create that tissue. If I had brain cancer that's now going away, basically goes up and rebuilds the brain or the heart or whatever else it may be. So once you start to nourish the cells, hydrate the cells, and also energize the cell with the electromagnetic frequency of the food, you're going to build healthy, stronger cells. It's like building a building with good cement and a good foundation versus building a building without that. And our buildings were built without it. Okay, the next question. Is this, I don't know, if somebody must have this wrong. Does live food cure birth? No. This one says birth. But I don't know about birth. I don't want to cure birth. Some woman in the middle of labor may say that. I want to be cured of birth. Okay, give up at that point. Okay, go to
Does
the next
live
one.
food kill allergies that you may acquire at birth?
Oh, okay. I get it. Yes. I died only once in my life of asthma. At 2.5 years old, I was really blessed by God, and this is not a joke. I had one uncle that was a medical doctor. He happened to be on that day at the hospital. I died, and they put the cover over me, and the nurse went upstairs and said, go down and console your relatives. Your nephew just died. He came down and revived me. And I had asthma and eczema. By the way, eczema is asthma. So if your lungs are not working, the largest organ in your body, the skin, tries to breathe, and that's what asthma is. So unfortunately, they don't seem to know that in medicine, but that's what it is. So I became first a vegetarian where I still had cheese and dairy food, you know. Giving up ice cream was the hardest thing I ever did, by the way. I mean, honest to God. That was super dope. That was sugar and fat, one-stop shopping, you know. That was like, didn't have to run around, just got it all right there. The day I gave that up and just became a plant-based eater 45 years ago, within 2 months, my asthma was completely gone. Now in my mid-60s, I breathe like a 20-year-old kid. I exercise like a fanatic. So yes, these things can go away. Allergies don't take years to go away. In most cases, and I would say 90% to 94%, within a matter of 2 years after you give up that particular element that's aggravating your body and that family of elements, you'll no longer have the allergy. It's only a very small amount of people, 5-6% of the people, that will still prolong. So it's eliminating all of the family, and then you won't have it. Okay, let's go to the next one here. Okay, well, number one, there's 2 ways to grow sprouts. And God's Sprouts is right here in Riviera Beach. How many minutes are you from this building? Okay, you're 5 minutes. Okay, so you can buy it. And although they're my friends and I support them and love them, why don't you grow this stuff? You know, they'll tell you the same thing. They'll teach you to grow it. You know, they want to sell it to you. They're doing a good job. I love them. I love what they're doing. But the truth of the matter is, you can grow this stuff for pennies, and it's therapeutic for you. But if not, God's Sprouts is a place to get it. People who come to Hippocrates go to them. They ship it all over the country, too. So that's the way to get it. But you know how inexpensive it is and how little time it takes to grow this? Once again, 1 window on my house, 6 kids, 6 people living in my house. Took me about 35, 40 minutes a week to grow 50% of the food we ate. So it's up to you to do that way. And you still teach that, don't you? How often do you teach the programs?
Once every 3 months or so.
Okay, so why don't he'll get up and speak to you, and we'll have some questions after. Now, you had a question. Somebody else had a question?
Yes, good morning. I don't even know where to begin. It is not enough for me to be vegetarian. I just recently tried to change my lifestyle into vegetarian. I'm doing pretty well. But my 3 sons, and I know you mentioned you had a household of 4.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I know for parents, it's important that we have storage of food for disasters, for, you know, when they come home after school. How is the Sprout Life going to ensure if a hurricane comes or something like that, that I have a storage of food? I understand that it's electrical and that we need it. I am concerned on how we can store it.
Okay, great question, and it's very, very easy to do. You go down to, I'm not a big supporter of Walmart, so if any of you shop there, think again. Walmart's an anti-American organization, so you know that. Slave labor. Once you get to $14, they fire you no matter what they tell you. So I don't shop there. So I'd say to go to Kmart or go somewhere else, and you buy a 50-gallon plastic garbage can. You go down here locally, there's a place close to here I used to go, and get dry ice. You put dry ice in plastic bags, you put it at the bottom of that 50-gallon garbage can, you put in 100 pounds or even more of seeds, and that's the cheapest way to buy it. You can do this on the internet now. You buy organic seeds, 100 pounds, that produce 1,000 pounds of food. You put the top on and you put the tape around that, it lasts for a minimum of 10 years. minimum of 10 years. So the most important survival food we're talking about now is what you're asking. There's nothing close to this. Yeah, crackers are once you eat them, they're gone. That's it.
Wow. Okay. And the other question is, recently I had a total thyroidectomy, and now they're saying that degenerative disc disease. What are the efforts that you should take to, I guess, reverse, or if not reverse, to, I guess, put the good things in to try and calm down inflammation? Because I heard you say arthritis, and I understand that that's really the core of what these diseases are doing to our bodies.
Well, what you have to know, and nobody's taught this, is that all animal-based foods, I don't care if it's milk, I don't care if it's chicken, I don't care if it's fish, I don't care if it's red meat, all have 3 acids in it. That acids, like battery acids in it, that degrade the tissue. Now, the bone appears to you and I as hard, but it's cells. It's called hard tissue. It's really not different cells in the skin, the soft thing. And so these cells are actually eaten and emulsify, and that's what's going on. So you've got to cut off the source of all of that. Number 2, you've got to give your body the food that brings it back. Now let's write these foods down and supplements, because these are really important. The other day, this woman who casually sees me at the gym 2 years ago said I was on this osteoporotic drug. And I said, you know, you may want to read that. Didn't even know she did. She went on the internet, read. It was eating people's jaws away, the osteoporosis. So she stopped, and I told her to take these 3 supplements. You can get these right here locally. One is Biosil. This is a silica. One is Biotin, totally different. How do you spell strontium? S-T-R-U? S-T-R-U? T-O-M? T-I-U-M, that's what I thought. Strontium. This is a trace mineral that bonds calcium and magnesium together. All of these are very inexpensive. Biotin is a protein, and Biosil is silica. These 3 build bones. So she said to me, for the first time in 15 years, my bones went up 2 to 3%. And the doctor said to me, what am I doing? And I just smiled and said, I'm taking the drug. She stopped the drug, because the drug doesn't work. The drug does something bad, so be very cautious on this stuff. The other thing is, you've got to go, not to me, you've got to go to a trainer. Now, a lot of these young kids that are bodybuild trainers, to get muscles, they understand this. They get educations in this. They're exercise physiologists. They will teach you ways to do gentle, without hurting yourself, gentle weightlifting and resistant exercise. That is the #1 way you rebuild bones. And so I've seen thousands of people in 45 years rebuild. People, I mean, the greatest story, this is a true story. We had a woman come to us about 15 years ago. She was 94 years old. Little, beautiful, petite woman. She must have been 4'8", and fragile as can be. And we were then testing with your hand osteoporosis. And they ran to me and they said she has 50% bone density. That means if she sneezes, she could die. That's not a joke, by the way. If you sneeze and move to the wrong direction, your bones could collapse, and she could die from that. So I brought her into my office, and she was a real lady. She was a Bostonian who, as a child, was literally a child prodigy playing classical music. And her generation, what I said to her was devastating. I said, you have to lift weight. You know, it was like punching her. Women didn't lift weight, women didn't exercise, women didn't do this in her generation. So she didn't say anything, she was polite and left, and about an hour later came back, she wouldn't look at me, she knocked on the door, and she said, if I have to do this for my health, I'll do it. So we got her, she stayed with us a month, and 3.5 weeks later, her bone density went up 21% just by doing proper weightlifting. Now obviously she wasn't lifting heavy weights, 21%. So that was, although I know this to be scientifically valid, when you see case after case like that, you see a young lady like you, can you imagine? But you have to do it right. You do it the wrong way, you'll hurt yourself. That's the problem. Okay, over here there were some questions. We'll come up.
My daughter has fibromyalgia.
Yes.
And she takes an excessive amount of pain medication, I think.
Any of it is excessive.
What can she do to alleviate the pain medication, what can she do naturally to alleviate the pain medication?
Well, number one, the best resolve would be to come off the pain medication, get on electromagnetic or magnetic therapy, because that's going to diminish it. Just because she's quit the medicine, she's not going to get well. But the medicines will break down her liver and break down her heart, as sure as I'm sitting here. Not maybe, that's what's going to happen. Now, number two, I've never seen a person with fibromyalgia that followed through with their lifestyle that weren't able to reverse it. Let me look in your eye and tell you, I've never seen a person that did what they were supposed to that didn't have the ability to reverse their own problem. But this is a laborious problem. You know, most of these people have stress. It's literally microbes that get into the muscle of the body. So you've got to get the immune system strong enough to go in and alleviate that. To answer your question, the number one anti-inflammatory is not something you buy. It's called pure water. Pure water is the number one anti-inflammatory. And so most of you don't drink enough water, and I'm saying that because I think so. We know so. Statistically, 60% of the American population lack enough water. Now, if you look at your body weight, let's make this easy. If you weigh 100 pounds, you actually need a minimum of 50 ounces of pure water a day. If you weigh 200 pounds, you need 100 ounces. Now, by the way, if you're a runner or you go to a sauna like I do every day, you need more than that because you're going to be using a lot more water. So that's number one. Number two, there are certain, and of course our medical team would have to see her testing, but there are certain kind of targeted supplements that we use to escalate the process of that immune system. And that's it. And each person's a little different. You know, they're almost common, but the fact is they're different in this thing. And so, I mean, it's sad. It really is sad. And you see your children, you love them, and they're on this stuff, and you feel hopeless, and nobody's giving them hope. They're telling them for the rest of their life they have to be on this nonsense. Yes?
One other question. I've been diagnosed as having type 2 diabetes, and I do not want to take medication.
Love, if you do what I tell you and stay straight, you will not have type 2 diabetes. I'm telling you right now, you will not. But you got to be brave. You know, I was as straight and as clear and as open as I could be today. And there's not one word I said today that I embellished or made up. And when I just looked you in the eye and said that, I don't know people who cannot reverse that disease because it's not a disease. It's a lifestyle choice. And it's a plague upon all of us today, but the African American community, more. Why? Look at the damn diet. Now, most of you think sugar first. Wrong assumption. It's fat first. Now, it's really simple to understand, but nobody takes a minute to show you this. Your cells, one of the many fuels it needs is glucose, sugar. So the glucose goes in. Now, where do you get it? Do you have to eat fruit? Do you have to eat white sugar? No. There's sugar in lettuce. You know, so you need a very minimal amount of sugar. 2 moderate-sized salads a day give a 200-pound man enough sugar to keep the energy going in his cell. But what happens if you do what I used to do? My whole diet was animal fat. I never looked at a vegetable. I didn't know what a vegetable was, to be honest. You surround the cell with fat, can the glucose get in? So then, if it cannot get in, we call it blood sugar. So why do you see obese people, 95% of the people that have type 2 diabetes are obese? Guess what? I just told you. How long did it take? 45 seconds. How many of you ever were told that by a doctor? Now, once you screw up the pancreas from doing this, then sugar becomes the enemy at that point. And again, you don't need to take sugar. This whole thing is, I don't have energy if I have sugar. That's hypoglycemia or diabetes. That's like dope. It's like a heroin addict saying, I can't function without heroin. It's not normal you need sugar to have energy. As a matter of fact, sugar takes energy out of you. My new book, Sweet Disease, has chapter after here's why it feeds cancer. Here's why it feeds diabetes. Here's the science. This is it. But nobody wants you to know this stuff. Because, by the way, it doesn't make money for you to know that you change your lifestyle and you won't have that disease. But, man, you're a cash cow if you have that disease. And all insurance on this planet pays for diabetes type 2. Yes?
Yes, sir. My question or concern is that I may have to go to radiation not too long. So I want to know what the difference between radiation or chemotherapy.
Well, let's explain it. Radiation is very targeted. Unlike 30 years ago, where it was like a drunk guy with a machine gun, now they have a sniper. So let's imagine you had something like brain cancer, where I would even say you probably need radiation. Okay, why? Because the tumor is so big, not that you have this, but I'm giving an example here. The tumor is so big, people's eyes are not focused, they're drooling, they can't stand up anymore. So what you do is you get the sniper to go in and reduce the size of the tumor. Chemotherapy is a nuclear bomb. So if I want to kill a Japanese person, I don't use chemotherapy, I use a sniper. If I want to kill a major city in Japan, I use chemotherapy. So it's a devastating amount. Now, again, in both cases, it weakens the immune system. Once again, nature, God, the universe, all of this together created the immune system to prevent disease and to eliminate disease. Why you have cancer is your immune system was low. Why she has fibromyalgia, the daughter, immune system was low. Not because I say so, this is biology we're talking about now. So if you are going to take radiation and or chemotherapy, there are supplements that help to protect. Now here's the downside of it. For every one cancer cell that is killed by this nuclear war, you're going to kill 1,000 healthy cells. So there are supplements that literally help to protect the 1,000 cells. Not 100% are going to be protected, but if you can protect a percentage of that, again, you come back better, you come back stronger. And how our medical team has observed this over the decades is we look at the white blood cell counts on the medical blood test. That's why they tell you when they give you these things to wear a mask, not go out because you're subject to infection. You have no immune system at that point. So again, be educated, love. Look me in the eye. Be educated. Know what is going on. Take responsibility. You want our help? We'll give you our help. Yes. Yes. You got to get your ass up and move around too. Yes.
Hi. I felt real bad when you was talking about the medical industry, you know, doctors and nurses, because I am a nurse. And it is true that we stay within guidelines. But I wanted to ask you, because when a doctor write a prescription, it's my responsibility to make them sure they understand. And I don't want to lead humans wrong, so I do tell them any medication that the doctor give them to read up on it and know about it, because the side effects would cause a whole lot of problem to them too. It would cause other problems.
Exactly.
So I don't want to feel like to you if I'm telling them something right or if I'm telling them something wrong.
You're telling them something right, love. Number one, the nurses, as always, the women take all of the work and the grief, and the men walk around like peacocks. It's the same old story. Even in my house, until I grew up, that was what was happening. You know, even at the Institute, it's the director, Brian. They don't realize my wife really makes all the decisions. But with that said, God bless you for being honest and doing what you're doing. And if not, you couldn't sleep at night. You couldn't look at yourself in the mirror. And again, you know, a lot of the doctors are good human beings. They're not bad people. Some are cocky and it's just a business for them. It's money, I know that. But it's not all of them are like that. I mean, they went to school when they were 18 for 12 years, not because they wanted to make money, because somehow they believed they could help people. Now, somewhere in that process, it got corrupted. And I think the real corruption happens when you come out and you're 30 years old and you're excited and you think you're going to help everyone. Well, after 3 or 4 years, in most of medicine, not all, ER doctors are different. ER doctors, the only ones that really should call themselves doctors are ER doctors. Everyone else is a joke, really. They're saving lives. That's fulfilling. That's fulfilling. But an oncologist, they keep saying, where's the patient? Well, that one died, this one died. So they keep writing the prescriptions. So keep being honest. At the end of the day, you're living with yourself. Those doctors aren't going to come to your funeral. They don't give a damn about you. You got to be in your own skin. Yes.
Yeah, hi. I actually have 2 questions. The first one is, what is the cause of Alzheimer's and what can you do? Can you reverse it? What could you do? Because it seems that doctors are only prescribing medication to slow down the progression. And my second question is, you had just mentioned about drinking pure water. There's so much controversy over like filtered water, Brita water, bottled water. Like, what really is the right kind of water?
We'll start with that one. In my book, Killer Fish, I had the privilege to interview 3 of the 7 most renowned water and oceanographic scientists in the world. They all told me the same thing, that every drop of drinking water on Earth, from the North Pole to the South Pole, certainly here, is contaminated with plastics and pharmaceutical drugs. Okay, so that's it. With that said, and I don't think anyone in this room is here from Manalapan or Jupiter Island, that group of people can buy a highly sophisticated $50,000 to $60,000 unit they put in their house. What I have in my house is called a distiller. Now, there's a lot of opinions depending upon how good the marketing is of those companies. This is science. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to give you science. So if you want to clean plastics, heavy metals, chemicals, chlorine, fluoride, things that kill you, maim you, and also contribute to mental disorders, including dementia, you need to get a distiller. Now, all distillers are good. Some are made better than others. Frankly, I can't sell you a distiller for as little money as you can get on the internet, because they buy 1,000 at a time. So I would go to the internet. And the company that I've been using, because I've had one for 43 years, I was just lucky that at the time I got into health, distillers were popular. Then all this other nonsense, alkalizers and this came onto the market. They don't clean the water. They don't clean out these things. I mean, at the end of the day, I want my water clean or I'm going to die. I could eat right, think right, exercise, and croak if I have bad water. And so bottom line is, that's what to get, a distiller. Pure Water is a great company. Been around before we were born, anyone in this room. Now, what is it? I've been looking for 22 years, this is 23rd year actually, at B12 deficiency. 70% of the population has B12 deficiencies. Meat eaters, dairy eaters, everyone. 88% higher incidence of B12 deficiency in animal food eaters than vegans. The least are raw vegans. Why? Because B12 is a soil-based bacteria. So in raw food, we may get some of that, but I still say the one supplement everyone needs, and I'll repeat this, the one supplement if you do nothing else, I take a lot, but the one that you all need is B12, and it better be the right type. That is the #1 cause of dementia. Because again, 70% of the population has it. My generation, called the baby boom generation, it is now clearly estimated that 25% of us will have Alzheimer's disease. We're not talking about dementia. We're talking about we don't know we're married. We don't know we have grandchildren. We don't know. That's scary, because what's that going to do? It's going to cripple society. It's going to destroy lives. Because if your wife is there for you, your child's there for you, this is the scariest. Reagan, like or dislike him, you had to feel bad. He didn't know he was president, this guy. I mean, that's how bad this disease is. The second is essential fatty acids. The brain is made of fat. So when we were called fatheads, we should have been thanking people. I used to get angry. I didn't know better. Thank you. The fatter your head is probably the smarter we are. So if you don't have essential fatty acids, we're not talking about animal fat, essential fatty acids, you're basically going to have little holes. And how the brain works and how you think and how you have memory is a neuron goes from here to here and here. How about if I have a hole here? So that's why you see a lot of people with dementia or Alzheimer's disease get confused. They'll start doing something and then you'll see them be puzzled because they have a gap there. So you need to take essential fatty acids. The best source is algae, blue-green algae, and the best type, you can buy at the frozen section of Better Health stores, right here on North Lake they probably have it, is called Brain On, B-R-A-I-N On, by E3 Live. E3 Live Brain On. Statins are going to make you have dementia. Statins are going to take your memory away. Niacin helps, but most niacin is chemical. So I'd rather have you have niacin in wheatgrass or niacin in grains. Buy grains. It's much cheaper and much more effective. The niacin, it's a chemical, not so good for you. Yeah, well, again, in early stage. I've never seen a late stage person reverse it. There's four kind of people I don't like to have come to Hippocrates and think they're going to completely reverse it. They may get healthier. They all will get healthier. Is late-stage Parkinson's, late-stage dementia, which Alzheimer's, late-stage ALS, and late-stage, what else did I say? Parkinson's. Early stage, you can put halts on it because, again, the body still has something to work on. But statin drugs, how many of you ever took a statin drug here and realized you lost your memory? That's what happens. You dilute the blood. Blood is cells. Blood is oxygen. Oxygen goes to the brain. You're going to have less memory if you don't have oxygen in the brain. Oh, we got to move on, love. Yes.
High blood pressure. What?
If you don't have a kidney problem, only 3 or 4% of people have a kidney problem. You clogged up your veins and you're not circulating enough. That's it. High blood pressure only has to do with that. Why salt does it? Let me show you. It's very simple to understand. If your vein's supposed to be this big, but you're like most of us that eat bad, you have a vein that's this big, and I put salt in, if you notice, salt contracts. If you had a wound and I put salt in your wound, you'd actually physically see it contract. So if my vein is already half the size it should be and I put salt in, it contracts it. So blood pressure goes up because the same amount of blood has to go through the smaller vein. Do you follow?
Yeah.
So you got to get rid of the salt, you got to move, you got to exercise. You got to get rid of the animal fat. You got to get rid of the animal. I mean, this is hard for you to get. You know, this was hard for me to get. The animal fat is the killer. The killer. Every disease, notice I keep going back to animal fat with it. What did I say kidney completely was? Animal fat. Now, also stress has an implication in this. So if you're stressed, that stretches your vein too. It's easy stuff, people. They don't want you to know it's easy.
If you've had a stroke and you get paralysis, is there a comeback method or system?
Yeah, hyperbaric chambers, something we've been using for a long time at Hippocrates. Hyperbaric chambers, and to me it's a mortal sin. This isn't commonly used in mainstream medicine. That, by the way, we know from studies in Europe where if you had a major stroke, and they could get you into that in 60 minutes, most of the symptomology would be gone. Now, when it starts to die, and 2 days later, it's not going to do much, but it's going to help. Do you follow? It's not going to stop it at that point, but it's going to help to open it up. So hyperbaric chambers, and then, of course, natto, which you'll never hear me tell you soy is a great food. They do some things with soy, by the way, because soy gives you a little bit of estrogen. Again, we don't want more estrogen. Estrogen is a major cause of cancer. But natto, you buy at every single health store. It's fermented Japanese food in a pill. Tastes horrible. That's why you want it in a pill. That literally is the most anti-clotting agent they've ever researched. Natto, N-A-T-T-O. Okay, more questions?
Hello. The question I have is a perception. And is the perception that healthy food or trying to eat healthy is a lot more expensive? If you're dealing with grocery stores buying food as opposed to health stores, the perception seems to be it's more expensive. Is that true or not?
I'd say in general it is true. In general it is true. If you come to where we are today, to ground level, this is far less expensive. But this takes more effort than to go to a grocery store. Do you follow? Like fast food is easy because you can drive right through. You don't even have to get your fat ass out of the car anymore. You know, so that's it. But does it make it right? Now, the good news is when you raise 4 kids like I have 5 grandchildren, you learn to economize on this stuff. You learn to economize. So you say, well, if I buy 2 pounds of beans, that's a lot of food. I could eat 3 or 4 meals out of that. You know, rather than say, I can bring you to the Whole Food Market, very expensive place to shop. And I can show you how to shop smart there. Now, I don't always do it. I can tell you how to do it. You know, you go to the grain bin over there. That's where you go. You hang out in the produce section, and in the produce section, keep noticing some of the organic food they'll have specials on. 2 or 3 or 4 specials, and they're the same price or less than you get at the local store. And what's really bad, I watched here. Today I got angry again because I'm a social activist. So driving in here, I'm on Okeechobee. I can buy gasoline now. I have an electric car, so I don't need gasoline. One of my cars is electric. Truck isn't. Okay. You can buy gasoline for $1.75. In this community, guess what? They're charging you over $2 for it. Okay. You don't think that this is a plan? Why do I go to the middle of the country where they have to carry gasoline for 1,000 miles and it's 20 cents less than here? Because they look at the socioeconomics of areas and they tell you how much to charge. And it's a great way to keep people under the thumb. That's all I can tell you. So they call them food ghettos. You know about this? Food deserts, food ghettos. I go into places like in Detroit, Michigan, it breaks my heart. These people, doing a lecture there for me is futile because they can't buy this food. They can't buy this food. That simple.
So they said that as we age, we tend to lose muscle and that we need to take some kind of collagen or something. They even talk about pre-collagen. How do we get it from a plant-based diet?
Well, number one, that's wrong. I don't take collagen, and my muscles are perfectly fine in my mid-60s. There was a major study done at Tufts University 35 years ago by Dr. Mayer, who was the president of Tufts, happened to be a nutritionist, PhD nutritionist. And what he did is he wanted to see if we develop muscle at a much older age the same we did as a teenager. So he did a great study. He took centenarians. I remember it being in the Boston Globe. We were still there. And he asked for people 100 years old and more. The median age was 102. He had 18 people. And he pitted them against our then Olympic athletes that were 16, 17, 18, or 19 years old. And he found out we develop muscle at 100 years old the same exact way we do at 16. Maintaining it is hard. I can tell you that. I used to go and pump muscle when I was 40 years old or 30 years old, and it would stay up there, and I'd walk around like a peacock for 2 weeks. Now, 2 days later, I'm back in there pumping it up again. It's growing, though, but it's not collagen that you need at that point. Again, the same thing I told this lady about BioSil, that's a really important one. BioSil creates elasticity in muscle structure. So it's maintenance of muscle, not worrying about collagen. That's somewhat crazy idea probably from the collagen company. Yeah. Now, come on, keep rolling here. You've got to give up these people, too.
We got maybe 2 more questions.
All right.
Just 2 slight announcements. We have a survey so that we can better serve you. We want everybody to fill out the survey. And attentively, we'll schedule to have another similar meeting like this on the 27th. But to do this, we need everybody in here to participate and bring a minimum of 2 people. You can see that this information needs to be assimilated throughout our community, but we really need your support. What Dr. Clemens is saying is really at epidemic proportion.
No, you're not joking.
And it's up to us to assist our community to be a better, healthy community. I want to thank Got Sprouts. They're located right here in Riviera Beach, the best city to live, work, and play. So I'm coming to the front, Dr. Clemens, but we have a question here. Hold your hand up in the front, but we'll be stopping.
Anyone in the front have any questions here?
How you doing? I have a relative that's got a pretty rare condition called brachial amyotrophic diplegia. No treatment.
What is that? I
no
don't know.
cure. It is an autoimmune disease.
Oh.
It's similar, but thankfully not the same as Lou Gehrig's disease, pretty much.
Okay. Well, let me make a first comment. I can't articulate on this. I don't know it, so I'm not going to embellish. But I'll tell you, there's no such thing as an autoimmune disease. When you hear the term by a doctor of an autoimmune disease, it's a gathering of diseases. They don't know what they are, and they don't know what to do with them. So they also say ridiculous things like your immune system attacks you. That's impossible. If your immune system attacked you, you die within minutes. So what it is that you've done enough wrong long enough to weaken your immune system. That I agree, it's not a disease. You haven't slept enough, you're in a bad marriage, you hate your job, you're smoking cigarettes, you're eating crap, these are the things. You're not exercising, and most of us, as me at one point, it was all of the above. And so the reality is it weakens the immune system. Now, this disease, I'd be more than happy to look into it and write you back about it because I'd like to learn about it myself. And then I can give you a very clear answer. Can there be help or not help? Almost always yes, but there's some things like I just mentioned. Late stage diseases like that. Sure, I can help them, but do we really want to prolong the life of somebody who doesn't know they're married or have children anymore? That's the question. So somebody up here, yes.
You said use a bodybuilder. Any bodybuilder can tell?
Any bodybuilder. As a matter of fact, you may want to get on the internet. There's a new magazine for the last 2 years called Vegan Bodybuilders, plant-based bodybuilders, strongest people in the world. One of the strongest, I think he won more consecutive years as the #1 bodybuilder, a Swedish guy, did it on a plant-based diet. Muhammad Ali was trained when he fought Foreman on this diet, on the Hippocrates program by Dick Gregory. So, look at Muhammad Ali. Or not now, but what he looked like.
How many times a week do we do this?
You have to lift weights 3 days a week to maintain muscle mass. So it's 3 days a week. And that doesn't mean the same muscles. What I do is I do upper body muscles and twice a week, and I do shoulders once a week. And so that's it. But trainers, which I didn't do. The first 10 years, I'm lucky I didn't hurt myself because I did everything wrong. I was swinging the weights around, I'm lucky. But the fact is, a trainer, they're not expensive. You need to support healthy business like this. Get training for 2 months, then liberate yourself. Go for 6 months. You'll make mistakes. Every 6 months for about 2 years, go back and get a week or two of training. And then you'll know what to do because you'll keep fixing what you're doing. But amazingly important. Exercise is as important as food, so you know that. If you're not doing it, at least here's what we know. Here's the science I'm going to give you now. Just to maintain, we're not talking about being really healthy. I want you to do more than this. If you're not doing 35 minutes of aerobic exercise 5 days a week, you can't be healthy. That means you're sweating, your heart's pounding, and you're not happy. 35 minutes. Minimum. I'd rather have an hour, you'd get 3 times the benefit. If you're not lifting weight an hour and a half, 3 days a week, you can't maintain muscle mass. And by the way, your hormones are going to get lower, your brain is going to go less. And by the way, the most important book ever written on exercise was written by a Harvard guy called Dr. Rattay. Write this down. Psychologist, Dr. Rattay. Doesn't have a word in it about the body. It shows you the psychological and intellectual benefits of exercise. People don't realize. We always talk about, like dumbbells and people being dumb that exercise. I used to laugh. All I did is smoke grass and play drums when I was a kid. I used to think athletes were like idiots. Oh, look at those guys kicking the ball. No, true. That's how I grew up, and that's why I was fat. I was fat way ahead of time. I was like a pioneer in being obese in this guy. And so the reality is, when I gave all of that up, and I started to realize food wasn't the only part. I had to exercise. I thought I was going to die. I never had exercised in my life, nor did anyone encourage me to exercise. So the fact is, if you're not doing this, you're going to age prematurely, you're going to be more susceptible to disease, and you're not going to be as bright, not as happy. That's simple. Exercise. How many of you exercise on a regular basis here? You know what I mean. You don't exercise, you get angry. To me, I used to be angry exercising. Then it reverses. If you're not exercising, you cannot be healthy. Shut the television off. Get the hell out of the house. Get with your friends, and walk. Speed walk, and go to the gym. Gym I socialize at the gym. I'm so busy with what I do. I meet really nice, smart people at the gym, and that's who I hang out with. I'd rather be with them. I used to go to the bars with people. What are you going to learn there? Nothing. Stupidity is what you learn at the bar. Yes.
The other thing is that illustration of the sweet potato.
Yes.
I'm not sure I understood.
Oh, let's go back over here. You may not have had that good science teacher. Some of us, how many of you had that science teacher we had? Yeah, I know. You get a jar with a good open mouth at the top. You put pure water in, then get the sweet potato, put toothpicks halfway down, stick it in the side, and submerge the bottom of that in. And you'll actually see within 2 to 3 weeks, roots start to come out of that. Okay. So then you lift it out of there and do a lot. Don't do just one. Do 5, 10, 20, and get a big clay pot with organic soil in it, put them in there and just water it. And it starts to go incredibly, you'll love them. I mean, they're delicious, delicious greens. The leaves, much better than the potato. Yeah, and nothing wrong with sweet potato. The best way to take it, get really sharp knife and cut it thin, and you can dehydrate them, not cook them, and eat them like chips. They're much better than any chip you ever had. Much better than any chip you ever had. Yeah. Well, number one, God bless you. I don't know what you do, but you're powerful, and you're strong, and you're good, and you're doing the right thing for this community. Yeah. God bless you. Give this man a hand. Look at this woman.
Okay,
She has
Dr. Clemens, we got two questions, and we need you to fill out the survey.
Please fill that out. You want to help these people helped you. Help them. Get that survey. Okay.
All right. My question is just, what are your thoughts on the Kangen water machine?
Kangen water machine organizes the structure of water. It is grossly overpriced, and it doesn't purify the water. It does not purify water. It doesn't even take out chloride. No. So unfortunately, you're paying $4,500 for a machine that is going to give you tap water that they organize the structure of, which is worse, by the way, because now I'm actually going to hydrate my cell more with chemicals. Now, do I like structured water for sick people? You bet. But guess what? I learned this in Europe. All you have to do is get a jar that they throw out the back of a restaurant every day here, put pure water in there, and twist it like a distilled water, shake it for 30 seconds. It organizes the structure of the water. That's free, by the way, versus $4,500.
Hi.
Yes.
My grandmother had Parkinson's disease. I would like to know if that's treatable.
Yes, very much so. What we know about Parkinson's disease is that the neurons in your brain and the receptor sites in your brain don't interact with dopamine anymore. And so glutathione IVs, taking it inhaled, like I said to this young lady over here, isn't enough. You need to do the IVs of it. So if you catch this early enough, clean up their act, get rid of the causative effect, get the brain going, you can put a stop and halt to that thing. But it's a miracle what we see with early stage of that stuff. And by the way, just like somebody, my buddy said here, for 20 years he had multiple sclerosis. He was working, and he was stressed. He had his own business, right? Okay, so he was working, running around. Then all at once, when it hits, it hits. It's like it gets to the top of the mountain, you fall off, and then it all gets in 2 weeks, you're in a wheelchair. So you want to catch it before people head down on this one. So anyway, tell a little bit about you. They may not know about you. You know that? Tell about you and what you're doing here and what your organization's doing. They look at you and you're all dressed in white. Now, what is that?
Well, he asked me.
I want to know.
Well, I'm a Hebrew Israelite. I'm a member of the nation of Yahweh, and I believe very strongly, according to Genesis 1:29, what he's teaching is actually biblical. We're just not taught from a biblical perspective. I believe that the Bible is a way of life, and diet is a part of that. Builders of the Highway, they're an organization that just believe in totally education. We understand that it's very important to educate our community along with other communities. We feel that if good people come together, we can make good changes. We're just separated and divided. It's time for good people to come together and do good things. Again, we have the surveys. This is better to service you. It's truly a blessing to have an organization like Hippocrates Health Institute and Dr. Brian Clemens. I want you to, and it's all right to clap, because I believe if you show your appreciation, he'll be more apt to come. Is that fair, Dr. Clemens? You always come where you appreciate it. This is the first in the city, and we hope to create a movement, Dr. Clemens, of a healthy Riviera Beach. We want to be able to enjoy all these wonderful attributes that we have. If you need a pencil or ink pen, please raise your hand. You can be as detailed as possible. Okay, now we're going to bring Miss C. She has a couple of wonderful announcements. Isn't she tall? Thank you.
I've been sprouted. So it's so wonderful to have you all here today, and you had some really wonderful questions. So I just want to have Meredith Calero. Come on up. Yep, that's you. All right. So this is Meredith, and she works at Hippocrates, and she is your guide. Now, when I say she's your guide, she knows all the ins and outs and all the intricacies of Hippocrates Health Institute. So just give us a quick hello.
Hello, my name is Meredith, as she explained, and I am a program consultant at Hippocrates. I fully embrace the lifestyle, and I encourage others to do that as well. So I'll be available today if you have any questions about what we do and how we implement some of the strategies that Brian was talking about in our 3-week life transformation program. Thank you, Z.
Nice. Who here wants to have a life transformation, right? What do you think? 3 weeks, is it possible? Is it really doable? Earlier today, we had somebody who talked about fibromyalgia, and then another person who brought up diabetes, and then Brian talked about the combination of obesity and diabetes. That was me. I applied it. Now, I come from the School of Hard Knocks, and I did employ myself at Hippocrates so that I could become thoroughly understanding exactly what's happening. But if you would like to submerge yourself in the process of what Hippocrates Health Institute teaches, come on and see us. If you still have a question, we hope that you've left with a question or two, then come on back here. We have a book signing for you. With the book signing, we have some suggestions. If you want to take home the program, you can do that. But I will say it's probably very good, if you're interested, to speak to Meredith over here. Reason being is she's dedicated a good amount of time to helping you. I myself worked with the guests at Hippocrates. I didn't come out just aimlessly today wondering what I would find. I educated myself with Hippocrates' teachings and applied it to my life inside Hippocrates for over 3 years, and then for the last 4 or 5 years I've actually been out on the road. So it's been a very awe-inspiring time together. So if you'd like to come on up and experience one of Brian's books and have a personal moment with him, please do that. We also have some, for those of you that are here, we have some program specials for you. And if you'd like to take some of Brian home with you and just listen to some more of his work, it's absolutely incredible. We also have some CDs and then some full CD packages for you, and also DVDs of a good compilation of all of his work, and we have specials for you in Riviera Beach. So would you like to have us come back anytime soon? Yeah. If we came back, would you come? If we came back, would you come and would you invite friends? Okay, so I have your yes. I think Aman has an exciting news. Do you have some exciting news? Are you going to do this again sometime? Is Brian going to show up? Where is he? We better, let's get him yes. Let's get a yes now from him, right? All right.
Has anyone not filled out their form? If you do, I just need to make a copy from it. Okay, is anyone not filled out their form? Okay, well, that's good, okay.
I think that Aman wants to do a really good job for you in the community, wouldn't you say? Yeah. Good, so he's invited us to come back and see you in about a month's time. So you all said yes, right? Yes. Excellent, so we'll look forward to seeing you again. So come on up, have questions for Meredith, have a private moment with Brian, have a book signing, and let's chat some more. It's been great to visit with you all today. Thank you so very much.